Hey there, welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. We're going to tour the garden. It's the middle of January and a lot of things are starting to wind down. Let's go take a look. As I look through my winter garden, I'm starting to see signs of maturity and die-off on some of my crops. Some of these crops have produced well and are done. Some of them are still going well. Some, like the cabbage there, need to be pulled out and harvested. The carrots, they're doing well. They've got a little more time on the carrots. But these peas here, not looking good. I have a plan for those peas. And all my radishes are out. Some of my perpetual spinach is pretty snail damaged. So yeah, this should be an interesting tour. Well, the first stop on the tour is my peas. They've been producing really well. You can see there's tons and tons of pods on here, loads of peas, and I need to harvest them. I think that's probably the last flush I'm going to get, although some of the plants are putting on new blossoms. Some of the plants are nice and healthy. These peas over here are the maestro peas. They're an English pea, but they're just about at the end of their lifespan. Down here I've got my sugar Ann peas, and they're done, they're dying. So what I'm thinking about doing with this little section of the garden is a sneak crop. I'm going to try to sneak in a crop here that can go in now, middle of January, mature before March the 1st, or maybe a little bit into the middle of March, because this will be my pepper. I'll have a lot of peppers in here. And peppers are a little bit late start. I'm going to start them about 3 weeks later than my tomatoes. Because they're a heat-loving plant. And if you put them out and you get a late cold snap, that'll stunt those peppers and they just won't grow well. So I won't need this bed until maybe the middle of March. That's plenty of time to get a crop in. I'm not sure what I'm going to put here, but maybe you have some suggestions. What kind of crop would you put in the middle of January that can make it to the middle of March and give me a return? But it has to not be radishes. I'm thinking lettuce like these guys here. Look at all the peas on there. It's a good crop. I really like these peas. But and some of them are doing really well. We've got new fruit coming on here. New pods. Lots of blossoms. These maestro peas are doing well even with the chickweed competition. But down here it's another story. These are sugar Ann, and I think they're done. They're kind of crispy. I'm not sure what the lifespan is on these, but they're mostly done. So at least in this area right here where my sugar Ann peas are, I'm going to put something else in. I've been harvesting turnips. As you can see, there's a big gap there, and these turnips are doing quite nice down here. I took a bunch of them to a friend at church, and she made some turnip fries.
You just want the green?
You can feel them down there, right?
I know, but I'm just saying, if you want a picture, you can't see them.
I know, but they're in there, and they were picked this morning, so they're fresh. Man, what a delicious idea. So I've got these turnips here that'll be coming out soon because they're pretty much done. I've got a row of turnips on the end of this bed that's ready to come out. My cabbages need to be harvested. In fact, I need to harvest a few of those today. They're starting to look like they're storing out here in the ground. They're starting to get a little sun scald, and they're big enough to harvest. Let's see, you need to come up. We have another cabbage. Yeah, these will store well in the garden, but they also store well in a cool, dry place. So I'm going to harvest this guy, peel off all these outer leaves, and maybe eat him tonight. I do need some form of a new composting bin wall. These guys, I didn't expect them to last long, and these pallets here, out of which I've formed my 3-bin compost system, is probably going to last me this year, and then I'll have to get some more pallets, but so far it served me well. I'm just going to drop all these outer leaves into the compost and chop off that root so I don't take a bunch of dirt into the house. See if I can do this without lopping off my hand. There we go. Into the compost. We'll eat you next year. There we go. Nice head of cabbage, huh? All this lettuce, that'll keep growing as long as I pick it. And I've got lettuce along here in my borders as well. You can see some of the lettuce over here has been harvested. That one and that one, that's all that's left of my little butter crunch. I still have a lot of lettuce down that way. It's starting to get a little bitter just because I don't use enough of it. But yeah, my Brussels sprouts, well, they're starting to put on some sprouts. We saw that last garden tour, but they're still doing well. The beets, well, they won't bulk up until it gets a little warmer, but I may need this space sooner than later. The beets, their days may be numbered. I've actually been harvesting some carrots, and you can see some of these carrots are starting to yellow a bit and look like they've been out here a little too long, but yeah, there's some carrots down there you can see. Most of these are smaller types and half-longs, Parisians, ox hearts, you know, not giant carrots, but they've been giving us some root. Like right there, look at that. Let's pull that one up. Look at that. It's a nice little ox heart, huh? Man, we love carrots here. That is awesome. The Meyer lemon tree. Saturday, all these lemons will be harvested and we will be able to knock this tree down by pruning. I really need to take this tree back. I need to structurally prune and open up the center. I did clear out a lot last year, but we got a lot of new growth, and yeah, these lemons are just clogged up in here. So this tree will look a lot different when I'm done with it, but wow, what a lot of fruit, man. Hundreds and hundreds of lemons. I'm so sick of lemons now. But this tree will look a lot different, and it may cause us to have a limited harvest next season, but that's okay. Even a limited harvest is far more lemons than we're going to need. I've got some kale growing here and some collard greens in a bucket. These were leftover plants, and well, they're doing fine in there, a little smaller. Okay, so here's the big change right here. All my radishes have been harvested from the little radish patch here, and you can see that my Brussels sprouts have been left behind, and they are starting to, that one's starting to put on a little sprout. Those over there have some bigger little Brussels sprouts, but yeah, this area, the radishes have all been pulled out except for a couple of them that were fairly impressive that I'm leaving in the ground. But yeah, that gives room for these brassicas to spread out their roots now and have less competition, especially when they're starting to put on some Brussels sprouts. That guy right there is a collard green. You can see the slugs and snails really like that. Once again, as I show you every time, my incredible mustard greens. These are beautiful. Notice the slugs and snails do not like the mustard greens. This is a crop that if you plant in my area, there's not much competition. Well, the snails don't prefer this. They prefer these other ones that don't have that sharp taste. And so some of the lower leaves have some snail damage, but very little. Impressive. I love this. Another collard green. My perpetual spinach is doing good. Some mustard greens within them. Now the perpetual spinach is like the snail mecca. They love this stuff. But I don't mind the holes. Just eat it anyway. Over here we've got another mustard green. When you see a yellow leaf on a brassica like this, and like this, pluck them off of there and put them in the compost bin. So I've got some volunteer carrots in here in these holes. That's encouraging. It's like bonus food. Look at these carrots down here. Wow, look at that. Let's pull that up. Look at that. Free carrots, man. You can't complain. It's a little Parisian. Growing in dense clay right here. Let's pull this one too. Dense clay carrots. Look at that. Well, no one can ever say I can't grow kale. That kale will be converted to eggs. Feed that to my son's hens and Donald the guard goose and Ivanka, his bride. Another cabbage hidden down in there. I like to put things in spaces where I've got a space, and I plugged a cabbage in there. These are Parisian carrots. They're doing great. I always love the beautiful carrot patch, and we eat tons of carrots here. We love them. So yeah, that's pretty much all that's going on right now. You know, it's starting to be a time of transition. Oh, look at my elderberry. This was a little elderberry bush. I forget the variety. It's in there somewhere, but it's taken off like crazy. I got to trim some of these lower leaves that have been shaded out. Now, the thing with an elderberry, you got to remember the stems, the leaves, the roots, and the unripe fruit are poisonous. They are filled with cyanide. But the ripe fruits are very healthy, very good. And so that one will eventually be transplanted into the ground somewhere on my property. I'm not sure where yet. But these little outflyers right here, I might propagate another tree out of these. Yeah, elderberry. Moving on to the small beds, this one here has been harvested of all the radishes that were in there and the pepper plants that were up here and the lettuce, they've been pulled out. So this bed is just resting. I will weed that and we will put some other things in there in the spring. This is probably going to be our herb garden, and we like herbs. And there's some rosemary there that's been doing really well. All my little pepper plants here that have been overwintering, they're of course looking terrible because it's winter time. But in the spring, I will come back and prune these down about halfway, and you'll be amazed how well they pop back up. Got a little 2-year-old parsley plant right here, and I harvested almost all of it. I left it a little bit of green there so that it can grow back. But parsley root, you see that root down there? It's like a tuber, and this parsley will grow back. Got my Italian parsley looking great. Some yellowing leaves, meaning it probably needs some nitrogen down there. These are old plants. These are old veterans, and they've been performing for years, or for a couple of years now. Each of those plants, if I just fertilize them, they'll keep growing. It's amazing how robust that parsley is. Fig trees, sleeping. Yeah, all the figs. The fig deck. I'm thinking about some things. I'm thinking about cutting down my fig deck in half and using this area right here in the ground to put this guy. This is a sad looking, what is this, an Aware Satsuma orange. And this is a graft that is currently being straightened out. You can see here, I have some straightening rods tied in here, bamboo pole, trying to get that tree to grow a little more straight. It had curved over. And once I get this where it'll stand just like that by itself, I'll put another rod on it to straighten the whole thing out. The problem with our area, we have leaf miners really bad. And leaf miners get into a tree and make it look sad. All the leaves start to look really bad, really curled up. And there's nothing you can really do about it except maybe a dormant oil on that will kill the moth or kill the eggs that are laid by the moth that turn into leaf miners. We also have a citrus virus in our area that might be in play here. We'll see. I have other citrus trees though, so yeah, poor guy, looking rough. I'm letting my bok choy go to seed here. You can see the seed pods are starting to bulk up now. We might be able to harvest some seeds from this bok choy. There are some pretty good sized pods in here. That's good. I like this little baby bok choy. Some of these down here you can still eat. They're little. The ones that bolt, the seed pods actually taste really good. It looks like I have a critter that's coming in here. This is yod pha right here with yod pha. It's a Chinese kale that tastes like broccoli. This is when you want to harvest it, and the top half of this plant is a tender little shoot with this little flower head on here. They're delicious. I love to eat these in ramen and Asian dishes. You can just steam it or boil them. They're really good. This is good stuff. And I see I have a lot that needs to be harvested. Nice and tender. They do get a bit woody in the bottom half of the plant, so that's the one thing I've found. They get woody and stringy if you let them get too big. The dill was harvested heavily twice. I dried some of it, and it's starting to look like it's a little worse for wear here. Now, we're not having any frost or freeze damage lately. It's been kind of warm. In fact, today it's 72. So, yeah. Bees love that stuff, man. Now, the side of my house has traditionally been where I do my gardening on my little table here. And it's looking a little worse for wear. I've got a bunch of plants and pots over here that are waiting. Some of them are waiting to be pulled out. Some of them are waiting to be planted out in public, stealth planted, and some of them are just empty and waiting around. But I do have some oregano over here. And I harvested a ton of this last night. About half of this oregano has been harvested. And there's nothing like fresh herbs. I tell you what, it's really, really good. I have an aloe plant. My friend the Perrys, they gave us some aloe cuttings, and these have been living in this pot for years now. And I brought them out from my patio. They were living in part shade, and I put them back here. They still have part shade, but they get more sun and more rain, and they've really perked up. It's nice to have an aloe plant. If you look down the line, all my muscadine grapes are in much need of pruning. And so it's about the time of the year where we come through and we'll prune off all of this hairy growth that these muscadine vines put off through the growing season. You can see here it's a big mess. Look at all that. And what we want to get at is this main vine and some fruiting cordons about that big. And we want to space them out about a hand's width down the vine. You can see I've done that throughout the years. And but it grows into this gigantic mess, and so we have to kind of take it step by step. Pruning is slow work. Get all the big mess off first and get a look at the vines, and then we can come in here and prune them down. I still have this area that has been cleared. My Bradford pear trees are long gone, and I've been watching to see what grows back and what shoots out. It's starting to get warm enough where I think those pear trees will show themselves if they're going to start coming up. But we'll get in here and dig some holes. We're going to put in a micro apple orchard right here with 4 trees where these stakes are. And I'm going to have to cut some roots out in those holes. But yeah, this is where the apples will go. Our apples have been ordered and they will be delivered in February. My son and I and some church family members are going to grow apples. An apple orchard is a real possibility in Zone 9A. There are apples that grow in the tropics, and we're going to put some in. I'm also going to put some in on the fence over there and espalier them against the fence. So we'll be full up with this space before too long. But if I have small trees over here, I also have the opportunity to put something in the middle here, like a skinny, narrow garden bed, and grow some neat stuff. Maybe I can grow some squash and pumpkin pits on the understory here. That would be a great place to grow those things. I grew pumpkin pits last year and got some pumpkins out of them. I'm real excited to try some new ground over there. Yeah. It's not bad, huh? Well, there was a time in our nation's history where that would be a meal for a couple of days. Look at that. That's nice. Some carrots. I love carrots out of the garden. Fresh carrots are the best. Fresh cabbage, well, I don't really notice a difference in fresh cabbage and store-bought cabbage, but it's nice to know what's in that cabbage and that I grew it myself and that there's no herbicides on that. So, all the compost you saw me make last year, if you follow my channel, and especially those of you who say that composting things is somewhat wasteful, or if I grow a crop specifically for compost, well, there it is. I fed it back to my garden, and now we're going to eat it. So we got a little bit of a harvest today. Things are looking good. Some things are winding down. Some things are ready to harvest. The carrots are still bulking up, so it's an active but slow gardening season. You can grow year-round in Zone 9A, so I encourage you to give it a try. Hey, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our channel, please. We would really be honored if you would. And happy gardening to you. Bye-bye.